On the Reel, Episode 1, Keegan Berrett. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of On the Reel. Today we get to sit down with one of my good friends, Keegan Berrett. Get to hear a little bit about his history and a little bit about himself. Keegan is a guide for Palisades Creek on the South Fork of the Snake River here in East Idaho. Overall, fantastic dude. Donates a lot of his time to some phenomenal causes. And just one of my favorite people to get out on the water with. So let's go ahead and we'll hop into the first episode here.
What's up, Keegan?
How are you?
I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I know it's a brand new gig here, and I appreciate you being the first guest.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure.
I know you've got a lot of history in fly fishing with your dad being in the industry and things like that. I mean, why don't we start at the beginning? What kind of got you into fly fishing to begin with?
It's just the natural direction we ended up taking. You know, my dad grew up fishing, and so, of course, I grew up fishing with him, and it was just something that became more fun and more challenging to do it with a fly rod than pitching spoons or drowning a worm. So we just ended up moving that direction. He ended up moving that direction, and I just kind of followed because that's what he was doing. You know, when you're 6 years old, your dad takes you fishing, you're going to fish how he's fishing and how he's showing you to fish. So that's the way it goes, and it's just been kind of second nature. That's how you fish. At least for me, that's the way it was growing up.
Totally makes sense. I mean, obviously you grew up here in East Idaho. You spent a lot of time fishing, the Henry's Fork and the South Fork and some of these surrounding drainages. What was it like back then compared to now, and kind of where was your first experience with a fly rod?
The first experience with the fly rod was on the South Fork. We did a lot more fly fishing on the South Fork than we did anywhere else, but it wasn't nearly as crowded and nearly as popular, 30 to 35 years ago as it is now. We could go out and you could put your boat in the water, and most days in the summer you'd see one or two other boats all day long. And so it was definitely not crowded. Now any given day along the summertime, you're going to be able to see 2 to 3 boats at any given time instead of throughout the day. It's look upstream, look downstream, and there's several boats there. So that's the biggest difference between then and now is the popularity of it and how crowded it is. Dad had started out with an old 14-foot Greger aluminum jet boat that he had, and we'd buzz up the river and lift the motor and row down and fish, and that was really difficult to row, but the good thing about it is you learned how to row on that thing once you get in a nice flat bottom drift boat. It was just as easy as could be. First fish I ever caught on a fly rod was on the South Fork using Super Renegades, a big black and pink with white hackle Super Renegade, and pitch it over on the bank, and I caught about a 4-pound brown trout. Very first fish I ever caught up against a log, and that log has somehow survived, and it's still there to this very day. We looked at it this summer, and that log is still there in the same place, and there's quite often still a fish there.
So how much time did you spend skipping class to get out on the water?
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time doing that. Dad was school was important. I had to go to school. I couldn't skip class. I think the only time I ever was able to get out of school for fishing was steelhead fishing. We did that a few times, but it wasn't regular. But all summer long was definitely spend time getting up on the water.
Nice. Well, so obviously you would consider your home water pretty much the South Fork.
Yes, that's where my home water is. That's where we started fly fishing and learned how, and still love it today.
I know you spent a fair amount of time guiding up there and gone from a couple of different outfitters, and now you're with Palisades Creek, right?
Yes. Palisades Creek. The the Orvis shop up there. It's a great place. Some of the greatest people to work with too. I've never had a job anywhere of any sort in my whole life where every single person that you met greeted you with enthusiasm, saying it's nice to have you working with us here. They're so happy, and I can't see why anybody wouldn't be happy, because I mean, guiding's got to be the greatest job on the planet. You know, even if you don't get a fish, you're taking somebody else fishing, and the smile on their face that comes up when they hook into something is it's priceless. There's nothing that can be. That's just as exciting as catching your own fish as putting somebody on a fish.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, years of doing it, and I feel exactly the same way. I mean, so obviously guiding runs deep in your blood. I mean, with your dad and whatnot, spending a lot of time on the South Fork, guiding up on the Henry's Fork. I mean, and he's a signature tire. I mean, like he's that guy that.
Yeah, he leaves a lot to big shoes to fill, and I don't know if I could ever fill those shoes that he has, but it gives you a good goal. It definitely gives you drive to do it. You know, if he can come up with some fly that's works every day, everywhere, and makes you try to come up with a fly, and if he's got a spot on the river he knows every time holds a fish, you'd want to find out your own spot that holds a fish every time, and it's nice to have that. But it gives me a lot of drive to try and be as good as him, and then at the same time it's satisfying to be affiliated with that, to have that resource to tap into. You know, you can always check with him. I can always check with him and see what's going on if I'm struggling for a day. You know, pick up the phone and dial him up, say, hey, what's going on here? And try this or try this place.
Yeah. Well, with the fly tying thing, you've kind of taken on like your own persona with that. I mean, hopped in and just gone after it. You spend a lot of time at the vise.
That's typical evening for me. I get home and say hi to the family, my wife and kids, and get some dinner, and then go sit at the bench and just try to throw things together and take something else that, even if it's not coming up with your own pattern, but trying to replicate someone else's pattern as good as theirs, and then seeing if you can make it better in some way. That I spend a lot of time playing with a lot of different stuff and go through a lot of materials.
And you've got a new company that you started a little while back called Rock Bottom.
Yeah, Rock Bottom Fishing Gear. I started making some boat seats. Several people used to offer them. They're a web seat. It's aluminum frame with a webbing as the seat base, kind of like the old Lavero rope seats. Same concept, but you do webbing, and it gives you several different options. One is it allows you to move side to side. If you always get some people are a little bit unreasonable in the boat, can't stay centered in the boat, and the boat handles so much better when everything's centered. So if he's off to the side a little bit, you can slide to the other side of the seat really easy and get that balance back centered in the boat. And then also, if you're up there rowing all day, every day inside one of those seats, the tractor seats that come with the boats these days, it's not that they're not comfortable, they don't have a lot of airflow. And gets really, really hot, and
you end up with a little bit of monkey butt.
A little bit of monkey butt. You end up with some terrible monkey butt. And so these things with the web seat like that, it really allows airflow, and you don't get that. And the nice thing about it, what I started offering with them last year is now we've got multiple colors for the webbing, and we can get your seat to match the color of your boat, which is really cool too. So a lot of people love doing that. It's that's a selling point I sold 2 of them last year just because I was able to get them orange webbing, so they had an orange seat to match their orange boat.
Nice. You expanded even more beyond that too.
We went from that, and I bought a new vise a couple years ago, and just wasn't happy with the whole clamp on the side of the table, and wanted a base. And the problem I had with all the bases that everybody offered was they have such a small footprint. You can get some large ones, or you get some brass ones that are really, really heavy, and they are more stable, but they have a smaller footprint to them. And if you're out there cranking on some big streamers, you really start pulling on things, you know, very, very common for your vise to wobble. And so the bigger footprint with heavier weight is obvious cure to that problem. So what I did was got some granite and cut a granite piece, drilled a hole, and put some rubber feet on the bottom of it, and then had a solid aluminum piece of aluminum machined out to where it had a nice taper and a good looking shape to it, and a set screw where your vise fits down into that base, and it gives you a large base, large place for dropping materials and setting things, but gives that stability, and they look amazing. It's so pleasing on the eye to see a nice pretty piece of granite sitting there in front of you instead of just a large black chunk of steel. You know, they look good, they're very functional, and so we did that. And then here this last summer, the one thing that's getting more and more popular in fly tying and fly fishing is a lot of large spun deer hair. And one of the biggest complaints of the guys that do large amounts of deer hair is stacking. So you get and stack your hair and then put it on the fly and stack more and put it on the fly, stack more and put it on the fly. And they just wanted to do that less often. And so we did, we call it the Mega Stacker, and it's a full 1 inch in diameter, inside diameter. And you can stack twice as much hair in a 1 inch stacker than you can stack in a 3/4 inch stacker. Guys can tie one fly with one stack of hair. They can jam pack it full, stack it down, pull it out in one clump, tie it onto the fly, and that's it. Saves them a lot of time. You got Matt McCard, who owns Fly Labs. He is very, very popular and known for his intricate spun deer hair flies, and he used one, and he said it cut his flies, it cut his tying time, cut it down by 2/3.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's huge. And then the other thing that I never thought about when I was doing this was he does some production flying tying too, and he was tying up an order of elk hair caddis. And what he was able to do was jam pack the stacker full and do one large stack, pull it out, and he had this clump of hair sitting there, and he's able to pull sections off at a time. So he was able to stack his hair one time and tied up 24 flies with it without touching the stacker again, because he just already had a whole large clump there stacked and ready to go.
So it definitely fills that giant hole in the market.
It does. It fills a giant hole that nobody else offers. And so...
That's killer. And people can get these from you?
Yeah, they can get them. Our website's rockbottomfishinggear.com, and they can buy any of our products on there, and if there's any custom options they want, they can call me up, and we can call me or send me an email. We can do what you want. If we can't do it, we'll figure a way out.
Nice, man. That's killer.
Yeah.
So you and I have spent a lot of time on the water together over the past couple of years, and you know, a lot of time on the Henry's Fork, a little bit of time on the South Fork, but generally we just get out and laugh and have a good time. I mean, I'm super thankful, you know, to have you dragging me out there as much as you do.
I'm always glad. Always a good time.
So, I mean, what's the next step here? I mean, I know you got a lot of guide trips lined up this season, and you have any big trips or anything like that planned for yourself?
I don't have anything set in stone yet, but I've been looking at doing a Cuba trip here soon, and then possibly a Kamchatka trip. Two on my bucket list. The third one on my bucket list is the Labrador. That's something I want to go over there, and definitely that's the top 3 on my list of what I want to do. Those 3 things.
I'm with you. Those are definitely at the top of my bucket list.
They probably sit at the top of a lot of people's lists. Definitely 3 popular places, and kind of the 3. Probably, I would guess that they're definitely 3 of the most common. I want to do it, but probably never will.
Right. So speaking of some crazy trips and stuff like that, I noticed that you're making the rounds as a part of a film that's being shown. What was that like?
that was a lot of fun. It was we went with Liam Gallagher, who is a photographer and videographer for Fly Fish Journal. They did a story on Carly Rowland. She's a guide. She grew up in Utah. Her family had a cabin in Island Park, and she would go up there in the summertime and they'd fish, and that's where she learned to fish. And she made a choice young in her life that she wanted to be a fishing guide, which for a woman for anybody to do is difficult. I mean, it definitely takes a different caliber of person to be a fishing guide, but for a young woman to do it is definitely more difficult. And she did it, and she learned how to fish, and she fishes very well. And she was guiding over, I believe, in Washington for a while, and made her way back to Island Park, and ended up guiding got hired on by Trout Hunter to be a guide for them. And it was basically following her life story. It's just a short film. It's only a few minutes long, but it's a great story, and Carly's great, and she's doing very well up there, and did very well last summer. She'll be back up there this summer working, and they did a little film on that. He did that. It was sponsored by Hardy, the Hardy MTX reel, and I got to be part of that because I'm from the area. I know the area very well, and I'm part of the Hardy Pro staff, and I had some of the reels and the equipment that was there, and it was just a good opportunity that came together to go up and do it. And so I got to go up there and had a great time. We spent a few days up fishing the Henry's Fork, and it's a special kind of torture to fish the Henry's Fork any day.
That definitely can be true.
Yeah, it's a great time. So it's going around with the film festival right now. They're making the tour around and playing in several cities across the country, a lot of places.
Nice. So which film tour is it part of?
F3T.
Okay, so definitely it'll be coming to a town near you, so if anybody wants to get out there and check it out, make sure if you watch it, you screenshot or something like that so you can tease Keegan a little bit. I know he definitely likes that. Dude, that's awesome. It sounds like it was a cool opportunity.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We got to fish a lot of the Henry's Fork. We spent a day in Box Canyon. We spent a day on the lower river, a couple days on the lower river down below Ashton, and then spent some time on the ranch. And it was typical Henry's Fork. It was fantastic fishing, and then can't buy a fish, and then fantastic fishing again, and we had a lot of fun. It was caught some good fish, had some good times, and it was really great spending a few days with Carly and Leo.
Nice. I know. From just chatting with you about it a little bit, it sounded like it really was a neat experience.
Yeah, it was. That's the first time I've ever done anything filming in that, and it was really interesting to see, seeing 100 of those types of films and everything, but never been a part of it, and watching them, learning how they do it and how they get some of the shots was a lot of fun.
That's really, really cool. So, spending much time out on the water this time of year?
This time of year, it gets a little rough. It's just because you kind of half pansy-ish, and it gets a little cold, but there's definitely limited access. It's a lot more work to get onto the water this time of year with the snow and the ice and everything, but it can be really good fishing because you get a lot less people on the water, so you can kind of get your choice of the honey holes, and fishing's definitely more difficult, but it's a lot more. It's a lot of fun still. But there's plenty of places to get out this time of year.
Nice.
Learned some new waters last year that really, really increased my winter fishing a lot. And we've been getting down there a lot and doing it.
That's fantastic. So, I know you don't like to tell a lot of people and whatnot, but you spend a lot of time giving back to the fly fishing community and bringing people into the community through a couple of different organizations. I know, Real Recovery and Project Healing Waters, you spend a lot of time working with people to try and get more people involved with the sport. It's pretty neat.
It's that, and it is definitely nice to get some more people involved in the sport and expose them to, some of the finer joys of my life. But it's also giving back to these people that deserve something given back to them. And also that are in a state in their life where they need something given back to them. Real Recovery is an organization. They're nationwide. They have getaways in all 50 states. They get people out. They get men that are suffering with cancer. They can have cancer. They can be going through treatment or not, or they can have had cancer in the past and fully recovered from it. It's not anything set like that. It's not any particular state of cancer to be involved in. It's just, if you're a man and you've had cancer or do have cancer, they will take you out and go fishing. And they get you out and they go out to retreats and they're secluded. And you get down with other men that are in the same state or have been in the same state as you. And you get together and it's some therapy sessions and this and that and talking. But then what it is they break out and they have a lot of volunteers with each one. And we take them out on the water and take them fishing and teach them how to fly fish. If they know how, they can. We just there to take care of them and watch over them. If they don't know how, we're there to teach them how and do it. And it's quite a rewarding experience for some of these people that have never done this, and some that have done it and are having struggles doing it now because of health issues. And so it's real rewarding just to see the smile on their face and to do it. And it gets them in a really good state of mind, and it helps them out a lot. And the hardest part about that is when you get an email 6 months later saying, we're sorry to announce the passing of this person. And it's, that hurts a lot to know that they didn't recover from it. But at the same time, the fact that you're able to bring them a little bit of joy in their last times of their lives it's gratifying, it's rewarding, it's definitely humbling. Knowing as much as I enjoy doing what I'm doing, that they'll never be able to do it again. It's kind of, it's sad, but it's a lot of fun. It's really humbling and rewarding to be with those guys and doing that. The other one is Project Healing Waters, which is, it helps out with disabled veterans. So we've got a local chapter here in Idaho Falls that, to be a part of it, you have to be a vet with some sort of disability, and it can be anything from 1% to 100%. And paralyzed people, guys struggling with PTSD, guys that just had other injuries that you don't see, but they have them. But we get those guys together and we take them and we teach them everything about the sport. We teach them fly tying, we teach them rod building, and then fly fishing, and get those guys out and open them up into it. And one, it's a program that's really opened up for a lot of people, good opportunities. Very common, popular guy right now, his name is Sun Tao. He started out, he's an Army veteran that started with Project Healing Waters and tying flies, and this guy ties some of the most beautiful, most intricate flies you'll ever see. And some of these flies are just for decoration, but a lot of these flies are so fishable that it's almost cheating. He's that guy, but he started out, never thought he would, he'd never had a second thought about fly fishing and fly tying, and got active. He was suffering with some injuries that he received in Iraq, and got involved in Project Healing Waters and started tying flies. And that guy's come a long ways, and he's very, very popular now in the fly tying industry. And we're hoping that we can get that kind of opportunities for our guys and teach them something that can get their mind off of whatever they're struggling with and give them something to focus on, something positive and productive for them.
Man, that's absolutely amazing. And I know that you have like a particular soft spot in your heart for these guys, because you did spend some time in the military yourself with the Marines. And so, pretty amazing that you're giving back in the way that you are.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It is. Yeah, I did spend 4 years right out of high school. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. It's nice to see something like this that are appreciating those guys.
Man,
especially the guys that gave more than they should have had to give, but wanted to.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. You're a good dude. I got a lot of respect for that. I think it's pretty amazing. So, going from that, like, what's your favorite hatch to fish on each of the river systems around here? Do you have a favorite hatch?
I've got two. Probably the favorite on the Henry's Fork is the Green Drakes. and favorite on the South Fork is the pink PMDs. The Henry's Fork is known worldwide for its salmon fly hatch, but the problem with the salmon fly hatches comes epic boat hatches as well.
And sometimes you get rain, and sometimes you got all kinds of different things that can really mess with the hatch and make.
Oh yeah. Early it comes up in May, and you never know about the weather, but it's the fish wait for it just as eagerly as we do, and the minute they come off, those fish sometimes will just gore themselves where they won't eat for days at a time after that. And if a fish isn't going to eat, you're not going to catch him. So that's why the salmon fly hatch is not my favorite. It's a little bit tough. It can go pretty good before and after the main hatch, but the green drake hatch fish they get so focused on them that I've watched fish chasing a real fly and try to eat him and miss him, and it's the only time I've ever seen a fish will chase a fly down the river 30 or 40 feet. Just as the fly's bouncing, trying to get his wings set and get off the water, the fish is chasing him and striking at him several times before he finally gets him or gives up and goes back to where he started. I've never seen that with anything else anywhere else, and it's pretty fun to watch that. And there's flies everywhere, and their fish are eating everywhere, and it's so much fun to do that on the Henry's Fork.
Yeah, I mean, you and I spent a couple of days last year with a good friend of ours fishing the green drake hatch, and fortunately it falls right in the time when the rest of the river opens up, so it's all fishable. So it does alleviate some of the pressure on the system. I mean, we spent a lot of time where there was nobody around, just laughing and just crushing big fish. I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, it was. And then, early spring always comes with the rain too. We sat there debating whether we were even going to get on the water one day, and finally decided to do it and rough it out, and it turned out to be one of the best days I've ever had on the river. But that was a lot of fun, and right in the middle of the green drakes, and that's where it's at. And there's a lot of other times to fish other places, and even on that river, but that green drake one is definitely my favorite. On the South Fork, the pink PMDs, it's definitely not a limited hatch like the salmon flies or the green drakes. When they start coming out, the PMDs start coming out, they stay on the water up there for 3 months or better. As long as the water stays warm, those bugs still keep hatching, and there's nothing. My favorite thing to do, without a doubt, anywhere is just pull up on a nice gravel bar on the South Fork and drop anchor, and you can wade in any direction and just sit here and target these fish and just pick them off with these little size 16 flies. And there's nothing more satisfying than getting a 20-inch cutthroat to the net with a size 16 fly, and it's so much fun. And they get stacked up in those riffles where you can stand in one spot and catch 10 fish, and then move 10 feet and catch 10 more fish. And that's why I like that one too. That one, and it lasts all summer long up there.
Yeah, and once you work your way through a riffle and you've caught all the fish you're going to catch, you can just pull anchor, drift down a little ways, find another riffle and another little gravel bar, drop anchor again, and do it all over.
Do it all over again. You can make a full day out of a 2-mile float up there.
Yeah,
and that's when the water's high at 12,000, higher at average at 12,000 CFS, where that water's not moving slow. You can make it a 25-minute float on a 2-mile stretch, or you can make it an all-day thing, and you can catch fish all day long.
Yeah, I've spent many a night rowing out in the dark. Just because you stay. Oh, just one more here. Just one more.
They're still biting. They're still eating. Let's catch some more.
Yeah, the South Fork for the pink PMDs is a pretty special deal. I mean, and you can watch them as the hatch starts to roll on. You can watch those fish push out of the deep up onto those riffles and just get super happy.
Yeah.
I mean...
yeah. You don't think there's such thing as a happy fish. Go up and sit and watch them, and you'll just see them. They have a smile on their face every bite they take.
Oh, man. Definitely a good time. I mean, I look forward to doing that with you this summer.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's going to be a lot of fun. But there's a lot of other hatches in different areas, and then there's a lot of waters around here to fish. You know, there's a lot of fantastic streamer fishing down in the cold times up on the Henry's Fork and the South Fork. You know, later in the fall, early in the spring, there is some incredible streamer fishing in those places. Other places down below Idaho Falls on the main fork, there's some, and all the way down to Burley. The river down there is excellent for streamer fishing, and they've got a great bass fishery down there in the lower, below Pocatello, west of Pocatello, and the Snake is turning into some world-class smallmouth fishing, and then Ryrie Reservoir. You know, a lot of fun we have is they have a bass on the fly tournament up there every May and on Ryrie Reservoir, and it's funny because what you see is, you think bass tournament, you talk about a bass tournament and you picture 100 jet boats out there or 100 bass boats out there with these big 200 horse motors on there, and you show up here to this one and they've got a limit of a 9-horse motor on the in your boat entry. It's the biggest motor you can have, and it's a bunch of river bums and drift boats with kickers on, and 2-stroke kickers, and out here struggling to get them started, and they finally get them started and they crank them up and they move at 4.5 miles an hour. It's quite entertaining. You see it to do it, but that's a bass tournament that they do. And that's all it is fly fishing for the bass, and that's a lot of fun. That's good entertainment doing that. And
so you're going to compete in the carp tournament this year?
I did that last year, and there's another one that's great up here. You know, Blackfoot Reservoir is absolutely one of the best carp fisheries anywhere you'll ever find, and that one's up there, and we do that, and they always pick a good cause. You know, it's been around for close to 20 years, and they've always picked somebody somehow closely related to the industry to benefit from, and they always give back to them, and everybody's always willing to participate, and plus it's a lot of fun. If you never caught a carp on a fly rod, you're missing out.
I absolutely agree, 100%.
That is one great pleasure to pull in a 15-pound carp. Is, you know, 13 to 15 is pretty on the large side of average, but I mean, you can catch 30-pound carp up there. Better tighten down your bindings because that's going to be a rodeo.
Yes, it is. They're definitely built to give your gear a workout, and they can be challenging. I mean, a lot of people don't like carp, and I totally get it. Well, not really, because I have the carp sickness. but you know, I mean,
oh, I don't like carp. Nobody likes carp, but they're a blast to catch.
Oh man, it's I'm looking forward to that one this spring for sure.
Yeah, that one's. We had a really good turnout last year, and this year I hope there's just as good a turnout. Usually they limit it to 25 teams, and they sell out again, or sell out every time, and then there's a whole bunch of people that come up and just to help out and just to watch. You know, Gary Green shows up there and cooks breakfast for everybody every morning. Has cooks a big pancake breakfast for anybody, and he charges like $3 for it, and you'll never find a pancake breakfast anywhere else for $3, but he donates it all. All the money he gets for the breakfast, he charges everybody for it, but he donates all his time and the ingredients and donates it back to the beneficiary of the tournament. So Gary's a really, really good guy.
That's cool.
And he's been a part of it, I believe, since its onset, since the beginning. He's always been part of it, and he always comes up. And it's one of the highlights of his year, he says.
That's really, really cool. Well, tell these guys where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Instagram at 208 Ripalip. And it's 208 RIPALIP. And I'm on Facebook at Keegan Berrett. And send me a friend request or follow me on Instagram and see some of my excursions. Definitely get to see some pics that I put up every time I get a chance, and you can see some of the flies I tie and come up with, and follow me there.
Awesome. And make sure that you give Rock Bottom Fishing Products a like on Facebook.
Yeah, Rock Bottom Fishing Gear is on Facebook and Instagram both, and check them out. The website is www.rockbottomfishinggear.com. And you can go on there and see some pictures of the products we have. And if you're interested, emails are on there. Send us an email, ask any questions. Phone number's on there. Call and ask any questions. We're happy to help. We do custom things. I did for Fly Labs. We made a base for him that matched his logo. It turned out really good. We're more than happy to do custom things for anybody.
That's fantastic. Well, make sure you guys get on there. Check out his website. Give him a follow on social media. Show him some love. And appreciate you sitting down with me.
Not a problem. It's my pleasure.
I'm extremely grateful to Keegan for coming and sitting down with me and recording this first episode of On the Reel. As you guys can tell, he's just a super good, genuine guy who really cares about others, cares about the history of fly fishing and the continuation of the sport. So I appreciate all of you guys taking the time to tune in and listen to this. I look forward to doing a lot more of these. I have some great guests lined up for future episodes. So hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you next time.